The end is in sight for the UK's biggest ever public inquiry into the infected blood scandal. More than 2,000 people died after being being given contaminated blood by the NHS in the 1970s and 80s. Thousands of others contracted illnesses and diseases, including many children. Well, the inquiry has been hearing evidence for almost 5 years now, and today marks the start of 3 weeks of the summing up of all of this. Richard Warwick from Malton has been telling me his story.
Well, I was born with haemophilia, and from a very young age, I received factor VIII imported from the USA as a treatment for my haemophilia, and I contracted HIV and 2 forms of hepatitis. I attended a boarding school in Hampshire called Trelaws, and there were 130 boys there, and 74 died, many before there were 20. So I've lost a lot of school friends, and in fact we were used as guinea pigs for research and experimentation at the college, simply because it was a boarding school and all the boys could be monitored 24 hours a day.
What's it been like living with 2 forms of hepatitis and HIV? It's been dreadful. As I say, we've lost so many friends just through one virus, let alone 3. It's stigma, inability to work, and it's a constant reminder of the amount of drugs I have to take on a daily basis. That, particularly in the case of HIV, this is never going to go away. So it's I'm lucky in so much as that I've found a loving wife, and we've been happily married for over 30 years. Unfortunately, we weren't able to have children because of the risk to the child of HIV. So, yeah, there's that which has had a huge detriment on our family life. But I'm still here. And, of course, like all of the survivors that remain from Trelaw College, we all have survivor's guilt. It's so hard to hear you explain what it's been like to live with both those conditions. Am I right in thinking that some very young children were given high-risk treatment, which was actually against the guidance at the time?
That's correct. The government guidance was, well, the clinician's guidance was that no child under 4 should receive any form of concentrate, and yet children were being given it from time before that, so people, even kids growing up in the early years, 10, 11, 12, were given factor VIII, and I know one boy that died at the age of 7 died in his parents' arms because he actually contracted HIV and then full-blown AIDS when he should have been kept on the safer treatment, cryoprecipitate. So that's just one example, but there are so many instances of, say, a haemophiliac passing it on to his wife unknowingly, and then she would die. And it's split up families, and we've got so many cases of orphans that have lost their parents, children that have grown up without parents because they've died, which is awful. I can't even begin to imagine what it's like for them. It's bad enough losing a child, but to lose your parents at such an early age is just unthinkable.
And the end is almost in sight for this public inquiry, Richard. What's it been like for you going through that? It's
had its ups and downs. In a positive way, I've met a lot of people in my position and in similar positions, and I think it's that camaraderie of us being together and realising that we're not alone. That has brought us closer. But to hear some of the horrific evidence over the past 4.5 years, it's been heartbreaking to hear the life stories of some of the people that have had to endure all these decades of suffering.
And on the other hand, it's been equally as frustrating to hear the denials from politicians, health professionals, doctors and the like, that have, and particularly people in higher areas of government, stating that there was nothing that could have been done differently, when in fact we now know that they knew all along that these products were extremely unsafe and dangerous, and yet they continued to import these dangerous products and inject them into the veins of children, essentially, not heed warnings, and just effectively let them die.
Richard, what are you hoping that this public inquiry will achieve?
For me, personally, and my wife, I think it's really all about getting to the truth of what happened. There's been so much denial over the years. We just want to know. We don't want this to ever happen again to anybody else. We need to know what happened and why it happened. I think we all know it was purely financially driven. They didn't need to import these dangerous blood products. We should have been self-sufficient. We were told we were going to be self-sufficient back in 1975. It wasn't for another 15 years that we actually did become self-sufficient in making factor VIII for haemophiliacs in the UK. Sir Brian, as head of the inquiry, doesn't have the power to recommend prosecutions and the like. For me, I just want answers. Any financial recompense is secondary, because I'm at the age now where that's not really going to help. It's not going to bring my health back or anybody else's health back. It's certainly not going to bring people back from the dead. So yeah, it's for us personally. It's myself and my wife. It's getting answers.
That's Richard Warwick from Malton. He contracted hepatitis and HIV as a result of the infected blood scandal. We'll bring you up to date with the results of that public inquiry as soon as we get it.